Hey family, it's Tasha MAMABEAR Prepping. So kind of a little bit of a different background. Everybody is everywhere in this house right now and I needed to find a quiet place. I'm in my medical room / garden room. Nothing behind me because I'm sitting on the bed and I haven't decorated. I haven't gotten that far yet. Get your drink, pull up. Welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're just going to talk about a specific topic that I actually had a subscriber email me about. She was interested in knowing my thoughts and concerns about a draft. You know, we have all this stuff going on with war looming, right? We are in some sort of war right now. But whether I would call that an actual world war is a whole other topic. What she specifically wanted me to talk about was the draft, with everything that's going on with Russia, with Russian men, you know, fleeing to different countries, wanting to get out of the country, do not want to be part of any kind of draft or conscription, whatever you want to call it. And so she wanted to know, hey, what should she look out for? What are the signs, if you will, of a draft to come for us? Okay, so I'm going to talk you through that, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about some things you can do, right? We always want to talk about solutions when preparing and stuff you can physically do to get ready for something of this nature. So some signs. What could be signs that we have a draft of some sort on the horizon? Well, if you see obviously major movement of troops, and I'm not talking about, hey, we're sending 3,000 here, we're sending 5,000 to Poland. I'm not talking about small numbers. I'm talking about on the news, on actual social media and our news, they're talking about big numbers of troops, 250,000, 300,000, 500,000. Big troop movements is a concern. What's going on? Why are we sending that many troops? What kind of battle do we expect this to be? That stuff matters, right? The type of battle that it is depends on whether we would think common sense we're going to need more physical bodies, right? If we are in a toe-to-toe battle, invasion type, in your face, soldier to soldier type of battle, boots on the ground, you can expect a draft to be something that is in the background if it's not already being talked about. Major attacks, right? When I say major attack, it's like something has happened. We have physically been attacked. Our country has physically been attacked, or we've had our own people, Americans, attacked in a big way. And when I say a big way, I'm talking about everybody and their mother knows about it. Everybody and their mother is talking about it, like a 9/11 type event, right? Everybody, right, was like, whoa, we're going to war. Everybody, right? Young kids, right? Young adults. Everybody was like, wow, what's going to happen? We're going to war, right? Something is happening, right? For you to do something like that. So we knew something would happen. Obviously, it was a whole other thing. There's a lot of stuff that's involved when it comes to war, a lot of political stuff, unfortunately. But in general, everybody knew what was going on, right? There was no hiding the fact that something major had happened, okay? So that could possibly be a sign. Another huge sign is an increase in recruitment. When I say an increase in recruitment, I'm talking about more commercials, more ads, more brochures in the mail, more cold calls to your house, more recruiters on the streets, possibly knocks on your door, more recruiters in the high schools. You know, I did recruitment for 3 years in the military. We were all up in the school, okay? Did cold calls all the time to houses, 8 o'clock at night. I mean, we were just working, right? I don't believe that the military is working that hard right now in regards to recruitment. I don't know that it's that big of a campaign right now. But I would, when you start seeing the campaigns for recruitment start to spark up again, that's a cause for concern. When you start seeing more of that happening, that should, now it's not pause necessarily for concern, but it should definitely just something to take in and note, okay, this is going on. That's interesting that this is going on and now we're having a push for recruitment, okay? And I'm going to talk you a little bit through how you deal with that with your children, right? And how to prepare as part of the preparedness piece. So make sure you continue to watch. Another piece of recruitment would be that they lax the requirements for joining, right? They would lax maybe some smaller medical issues. They would be maybe lax on weight requirements. They would maybe be lax on your education requirements or the score needed on an ASVAB. Maybe crimes, right? Misdemeanors, maybe being lax on misdemeanors. Who knows how bad of a draft it is? There might be a lax on certain felonies, depending on what the felony is, right? So these are just signs, right? The thing with preparedness, and especially preparedness news and staying up on stuff and researching stuff and understanding what's going on in your country and your surroundings and internationally, different countries, is because that knowledge is power. Knowing the dynamic of what is happening around you helps you to be ahead of certain things. War is no different, right? And if you're trying to be ahead of understanding war, whether we're going to go to war, getting ahead of that stuff, seeing these signs do matter. Maybe this doesn't apply to you directly, right? Maybe in your home there is no young adults, right? Maybe it's you and your husband, and you're in your 60s, your 70s, and you're like, this doesn't apply to us. But this could apply to grandchildren, right? This could apply to younger children or younger adults, okay? This would be a worry for me, 16 and up, right? Even for us and my family, we have discussed, me and my husband, what happens the day that we get drafted, or that one of us, at what level and what has to happen. We've had these discussions. At what level would somebody, the government, come and get somebody like us, somebody who is transferred to the Fleet Reserve, right? Done at least 20 years, but not technically retired. If you didn't know, you don't really retire until the 30-year mark. So really, we're not safe, and I really just say safe to the next bracket of safety, to the 30-year mark, okay? So we've discussed what would have to happen, and then if they did come to our home talking about a draft, who would they take, right? We're both disabled to some capacity, but one of us is 100%, one of us is not, okay? And although we're married and we have children, if they come knocking, one of us is probably going, unless we're totally safe because we're 80% disabled. It gets scary because it depends on the situation and how bad it is. I will tell you though, that if it's that bad that they're coming and knocking at our type of doors, it's bad. And you're going to have Americans. The good thing about America is you have patriots here who care. You have young men and women who were going to the recruitment centers in droves after 9/11 because they wanted to serve their country and they wanted to go and do their duty. Okay, so you have millions, I would say, that would stand up and say, I'll go, right? Without being drafted, I will go. They will not flee to borders like you have people in Russia doing, but you will have Americans that will want to do the same. Extreme is if it's hardcore draft, like nobody's safe, like we need bodies, borders are closing, okay? At this point, it's too late. Everybody and their mother knows that there's a draft going on and it's a hardcore draft. I've never seen anything like that before, right? Things you can do, it's like, how do you prepare for that? Well, I think, in my humble opinion, the biggest thing you can do is, if you have young adults in your home, meaning you have teenagers in your home, you should be having these discussions with them, okay? What you don't want to do is, when that popped off with Ukraine, do you know my nephew came home, the high school was buzzing about draft. The draft's coming. Our young people do not understand, you guys, how things work, okay? All they know is either what my generation has told them, right? Their parents have told them, their grandparents have maybe told them, and then social media. Like, that's where they're getting their information from, okay? That's where they're getting their facts from, right? And so the school was buzzing that day draft is coming, and you had children coming home and going home scared they were going to be drafted, had no idea how it works, what it is, none of that stuff. Okay. And so I would say part of preparing is talking to your children, talking to those younger children, younger adults, maybe even middle school and up, and have your children just understand what it is, right? We have a 13-year-old who we discuss and knows what the draft is, knows what the stuff is. He sees this stuff, right? So it's your job as the parent, talk to them and let them know what things are, so that they're not learning things in school from other silly kids who have no idea what's going on. And so that they don't panic and they're not scared and fearful of something that they don't even understand or don't know about yet, okay? And talk to them, because you need to harden them for what to say and what to do if recruiters are approaching them, and in the school talking to them and dropping those seeds in their heads, right? Especially if you're not trying to have your children ever join the military. You need to have those conversations so that they don't get trapped into conversations or trapped into doing things or just discussing stuff that maybe you don't want your children discussing with total strangers, right? Maybe that's a conversation you want to have with them if they're interested in that, and you don't want somebody else having that conversation with them. That is something that a parent would be going and being part of that process with a child who is discussing military, okay? But you got to be careful. Another thing is conversation between adults, anybody in the house that's of age, right? Whoever lives there. You have a lot of families that live together, nieces, nephews, cousins, uncles, brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, right? Having that discussion that if that comes to your door, what does that look like? Is your family prepared? Who do we think they would take? Who is of age? How would that affect your family? How does that affect the income? Just because they get drafted and go doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to make good money, right? Especially if they're drafted and there's some lower rank and they were an executive, if there were some kind of job that was bringing in money, and now they're going off to not only leave and be in the war, but the money is not going to be as good as what you guys had. So what does that look like? Just having those conversations so that it's not a shock, okay? And you guys are prepared. The whole point is to prepare for different situations. This is no different. Preparing in an increase of civil unrest. You're going to have a huge divide of the country, because you're going to have people who are like, yes, let's go to war, let's fight. And then you're going to have the other people that are like, no, do not take our people that are totally against the draft, totally against taking, their babies, making people do stuff that they don't want to do, right? And so you're going to have riots, you're going to have protests, you're going to have an increase in civil unrest during a real wartime event, because you're going to have people on both sides of the fence, people that do not want it to happen, that are totally against the war, and then you have people that are going to be for it. You're going to have, you can prepare for panic buying, right? We're already in a situation where our supply and demand is already a fragile state, and then you throw war into it, you throw panic buying into it, people cleaning off the shelves, possibly war rations, right? Food and supplies being rationed. You have to worry about sanctions that will be happening between different countries depending on what's going on. How does that affect the supply chain? So what is already fragile and what is already broken will be demolished, okay? And so again, it's just another reason that we prepare, and we tell you to get that food, water, meds, and to do the things to get ready for different events that could happen. And this is a big one. A lot of people are like, well, I'm more worried about nuclear war or EMP, something major. Yeah, I mean, if something like that happens, I don't think you have to worry about the draft. You need to worry about just surviving in general, laying low, getting through the dying time, because that's going to be a huge mental game. And then once you make it through that, we'll see where the chips fall as far as any kind of government and any kind of communications, but all types of stuff breaks down when something major happens like that. Another sign that you could see of a draft is if we ever get into a two front war, even if it's proxy war. So it's proxy war right now with us, with Ukraine and Russia. And if something jumps off, let's say we have another one with China and Taiwan, and we are doing a proxy war on two fronts, That's a concern, okay? Even though it's a proxy war, anything could happen. And that's another sign that you need to be worried about a draft, because we do not have the bodies for a two-front war like that. And even though it's a proxy, proxy war is just a step away from real war, right? It just takes one event. And so if something pops off, we're not going to be able to handle that. And we are immediately going to want more bodies for the fight, right? For our militaries, to bolster our militaries up, okay? Because there's a lot of jobs, there's a lot of things that happen, okay? I think that's all that I wanted to say about the draft. I mean, this subscriber was concerned. I think she just wanted a little bit of information to get ahead of the things that possibly could happen in the future, watching what's happening in Russia, watching how men are fleeing and not wanting to do that. I think I read something the other day that Ukraine is about to draft women come next month in October. So that's a big deal too, is when you get to the point where you're drafting women as well. The draft traditionally has been men of age, right? But I think we're in a world where, there's a lot of equality. There's a lot of, men and women are the same, all this stuff. So that's not surprising to me. I do not know if we would ever get to that point here. I don't even want to speak on that. I think that if a war happens, okay, a major event, you will have droves of Americans, men and women, signing up and saying they want to go and fight. And if a draft happens, that means it's bad, right? And there's levels to this, right? You have active duty gets called. Then you have reservists, right? You have all the reservists that are training and are normal Americans during the day, as far as they have their own lives, their own jobs, but then they can be called up. Those folks will be called next, right? And then there's some sort of draft. And then if that doesn't get it done, then maybe they're going into transferred reserve folks, right? Transferred fleet reserves, retirees, that type of thing. If we're getting that far into it, I've always said, man, we're getting attacked by aliens. Like, it's something big. And it at that point, it is everybody. It's every able body, women, men, everybody, okay? We're fighting as together, as a people, right? As a country. And at that point, it doesn't matter all the politics, right? At that point, what matters is that we're all fighting because we're all trying to survive together, whatever it is we're trying to get through. So I hope you guys are well. I'm sure that the chat has been on fire with all types of discussion about, different things, war and opinions. I hope it was civil. I hope everybody is staying nice and calm and there's no fights going on. It is an emotional topic, the draft and draft in general. And it's scary for some people. I don't want to ever be drafted. I would never want a child or it's not a cool subject, right? To make somebody do something that they don't want to do, especially something as serious as war, right? But this is serious. We're Americans. We're patriots. And this is our country, okay? So I will see you guys tomorrow on the next video. I hope you guys stay well. Blessings from my bear cave to yours. Bye.